Kourtney, you just have a way of rubbing people the wrong way.
Kourtney is out. She will not be at the shoot because she is the one that has the annoying schedule. I can't handle this anymore because everyone is dropping left and right from all these schedule changes. I need Kourtney to not be so annoying with the stick up her ass like she runs this because she doesn't. She's the least exciting to look at.
Named after her maternal grandmother, Kourtney Mary Kardashian was born April 18, 1979. Though she would later be referred to as, quote, the least interesting to look at, she was the apple of her parents' eye. Kris wrote, quote, she was born in the middle of the night, and the next day, as soon as we were transferred to a room, OJ came to see us. He was so excited for Robert and me, so excited about the birth of our first baby. Kris and Robert simply doted on their firstborn and showered her with much love and affection. Their family and friends were equally enamored and spoiled her rotten. Kris wrote, quote, one funny moment in Kourtney's babyhood happened one afternoon when OJ was over to play tennis with Robert. OJ was in his tennis whites, and we were out in front of the house saying hello before they went down to the courts. OJ picked Kourtney up and lifted her up in the air. Kourtney took a deep breath and exploded like the little girl in The Exorcist, hurling barf on OJ, literally covering him in his tennis whites and baby vomit. A year after being the only child, Kourtney became a big sister as Kris and Robert welcomed another daughter, Kimberly. Kourtney and Kim were only a year apart and were inseparable growing up. In their book, Kourtney wrote the following, quote, Kim was my little sidekick. We did everything together. I called her Kimbo sometimes. Wherever I went, she'd come along, and whatever I was doing, she'd do it. Growing up in Beverly Hills was one of a kind for the girls. Their parents threw the most amazing parties, and their home was considered the place to be. Their house, that they called Tower Lane, was at the end of a private road on a cul-de-sac and was surrounded by celebrities. They wrote, quote, there were only 3 houses on our cul-de-sac, and Bruce Springsteen lived on one side of us. Jay Leno lived down the street, and OJ and Nicole Simpson were a couple minutes away. At one point, we even lived next door to Madonna.
Your dad was Kardashian, the lawyer.
Robert Kardashian.
Yeah.
Robert Kardashian, who died of cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a very famous attorney, represented
Friend of
OJ and all that stuff. Your dad was a well-off guy, right?
Yeah, we grew up in Beverly Hills. We definitely had a really privileged life.
The Kardashian kids lived a very exciting and colorful life with Robert always there to capture every moment. They wrote, quote, we had practically our entire childhood on video. Hey, maybe that's why it's so natural for us to live so much of our lives on camera with our TV show. Dad was absolutely glued to his video camera when we were kids. Everything we did, he documented it.
Every moment of our lives. He would, videotape us as kids, and he was narrating all of that.
Okay, here's Khloe, and this is your first day of school. Are you excited? Let me see your lunchbox.
Is that Court?
That's Kim. Look at her posing. Look at Kim.
He zooms in on my face.
Get Mom.
Let me have her bathrobe.
Look at her glasses.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're watching this.
It's true. The Kardashian kids seemingly had a pretty perfect life. That is, until their mother had an affair and their whole world flipped upside down. In their book, Kardashian Confidential, they wrote, quote, everything seemed pretty perfect in our lives until our parents got a divorce. It was the hardest on Kourtney, who was the oldest.
How do you think you were impacted by that time?
I think it definitely affected my relationship today. I think I definitely have not commitment issues because I'm committed to Scott and we're together as a family. I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of scared of marriage because of that.
Do you think you will marry him?
I'd like to someday for my children, but I'm not completely against it. But I know that I'm just as committed as if I was married or not married.
As stated in part 1, Kris had an affair with then 23-year-old Todd Waterman. Her affair devastated Robert, who eventually filed for divorce. Being the oldest, Kourtney had a front row seat to her parents' nasty separation and divorce. She wrote, quote, my parents never fought until they were getting a divorce. I never heard them argue when we were growing up, not even one time. My parents' divorce was hardest on me because I was the oldest and understood the most. Divorce can be so traumatizing for kids, even though in some cases it's probably for the best. You just want your parents to be together forever, and you don't want anything to change. I sided with my dad and acted out with my mom a lot. We got into screaming, hair-pulling fights. She would grab my arm and then I would dig my nails into her hand to get it off. I feel like every time I was at my mom's, we would just argue.
In her 2011 memoir, Kris Jenner and All Things Kardashian, Kris revealed she had an affair while married to her first husband, Robert Kardashian.
Kourtney and I, for sure, we were really aware.
I wasn't.
I still wasn't aware until recently, to be honest.
Really?
You weren't aware to win the book?
Honestly, I swear.
What?
But you were really angry about it.
I think to myself, like I'm trying to put myself in her shoes, and I'm like, I would never do that to my family. I know that she regrets it so much.
I understand, Mom, because I feel like not that I think that that's okay, but I've been in really unhappy situations, even though Dad was amazing to her, but I've been in those situations where I feel like I want to get out, I can't breathe.
Kourtney carried a lot of anger and pain as she watched her mother parade around town with her lover. After Kris realized that the young soccer player wasn't a great match for her, she ended the relationship. Shortly after, she met Caitlyn Jenner, which angered Kourtney even more. She wrote, quote, "My mother and Bruce got married shortly after my parents' divorce. I was the only one who didn't like Bruce at first, just because of my dad, you know? I felt like I was betraying him if I was nice to Bruce. We used to have fights all the time. I was so stubborn. But Bruce was kind of stubborn too. And we would get into these wars over any little thing. If he said something like, 'You can't do this,' I'd say, 'You're not my dad.'"
Stubborn. Kourtney is stubborn, and that's a good thing. Kourtney knows exactly what she wants and how to get there. I'm so proud of Kourtney, but she is very stubborn, and I think that serves her well. It's just perfect for her.
Kourtney had a tough time adjusting to her new normal and would often take her frustration out on her siblings. She admits that she wasn't the nicest person and was oftentimes quite rude. She wrote, quote, "I could be quite rude when I was younger. Once at my dad's house, it was just me, him, and Kim. And I said, 'Everyone in this house is so fat except for me.' I was talking about Kim, of course, and she knew it. I was such a little bee. I would say things on purpose. Always the low blows, whatever would get under someone's skin."
Kourtney is kind of like emotionally cold, but she like is really sweet and like means well and stuff, but she just like, if you want to talk to her about a boyfriend problem, she just doesn't care because she doesn't have them. So she just doesn't think things are like a big deal. Like I'll be like, "Oh my God, should I check his messages?" Da da da, and she'll just be like, "You're crazy."
Kourtney turned into someone who was very cold, detached, and dismissive towards her loved ones. Kim wrote, quote, "I felt bad for Kourtney because I saw her having such a hard time. She was just miserable, especially when my mom remarried."
How did your kids react when you get divorced, you suddenly meet this guy, and you are a unit?
Well, Kourtney wore black for a year in protest.
Really?
Yeah, wouldn't talk to him. So she was definitely daddy's girl.
In high school, Kourtney decided she didn't want to live at her mother's house. The two barely got along and she wanted out. She wrote, quote, "In high school, I lived with my dad mostly. At my mom's, there were a million kids and it was chaos. At my dad's, it was calm and he was easygoing. In the morning, I'd just grab a cup of cereal and eat it in the car while he drove me to school. He didn't care if I made my bed before I left. I wasn't a slob. My room was still clean. But my mom, if you didn't make your bed, she'd freak out. Living with my dad was a good fit for me at that age."
I like my home, I'm very particular, and I like things just so. And if you mess up my house, you get your head handed to you.
Living with Kris could be quite demanding, and Kourtney felt like she needed some space. She would distract herself by investing her time into certain hobbies, and one of those hobbies was fashion. Ever since she was a little girl, Kris dressed Kourtney and her siblings in high-end luxury clothes from boutiques. She bragged about the expensive attire in her divorce document, stating that, quote, "I spend $800 a month on clothes for the kids and $2,000 a month on clothes for myself." Kris's taste in fashion that had been passed down to her from her mother, Mary Jo, would serve as inspiration to Kourtney. She wrote, quote, "Even when I was little, I loved clothes and shopping, and I wanted to be a fashion designer. One year, when I got older, my parents gave me a sewing machine, and in high school, I would buy patterns and fabrics. One year, when my mom was getting ready for her famous Christmas Eve party that night, I saw a Jill Stewart dress in a magazine that I was dying over. It was a little lavender mini dress, all ruffly, and it was really for spring, but I just had to have it. So I went to the fabric store and came home and made it and wore it to the party that night." After graduating high school, Kourtney enrolled at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, studying communications and journalism with a minor in Spanish. This would be the first time in her life she would be so far away from her family, but she wanted out of Beverly Hills. She wrote, quote, "At the time, I was so used to Beverly Hills, and the people at SMU were so different from the people I knew back home. The people there were Southern, or from other parts of the country, and they didn't care about what you wore, or who you knew, or how much money you had. The whole thing was a great learning experience for Kourtney, and quite a culture shock." She wrote, quote, "Even the way I got around in LA, you never walk anywhere. But in Dallas, my first year, I didn't have a car, so I walked all over. I learned how to do my own laundry, and I went out to eat by myself. I relied on myself more than I ever had before. It made me realize I was okay on my own." Kourtney was having the time of her life away at college. Kris, on the other hand, struggled a lot. She wrote, quote, "Having Kourtney leave for college was a significant moment. As you know by now, I have always dreamed of having the perfect family, complete with a wonderful husband and 6 beautiful kids. But I never got to the part of my dream when one of them would leave for college. I certainly wasn't ready to let Kourtney go. I was so preoccupied with changing diapers and keeping Bruce's business going, I didn't give much thought to the fact that Kourtney was actually and truly going to leave for college. When the day came, I was an absolute mess." Kris was heartbroken with her firstborn so far away in a completely different state. Though she initially encouraged Kourtney to go to school there, she realized it was too much for her to handle and vowed to find a way to keep her children close to her. She wrote, quote, "I knew that being separated from my children would never be something I could handle. I knew I had to figure out a way to keep my babies close in the future. And that way would come soon enough." After spending 2 years at SMU and failing classes that required public speaking, Kourtney decided to transfer to the University of Arizona in Tucson, where most of her friends attended. When she transferred to Arizona, she changed her major to theater arts due to her interest in fashion and costume design. Upon Kourtney's graduation, she, along with a friend, opened a clothing line. She wrote, quote, "We did t-shirts at first, and we did pretty well. We got into some cute little boutiques like Kitson and got an order from Nordstrom's."
I was cut off when I graduated college, and my dad was like, "You need to get a job, and like, you have a month, I'll help you find one, but then like you have to, make money and support yourself."
I just think that it's actually probably harder. We did grow up with this privileged life, but knowing that at a certain age we're going to be cut off and we can't ask our parents for anything, and already having that lifestyle growing up, we want to maintain that. So it's probably even harder for us because a lot of people are doing nothing. And we were taught at a very young age that we're going to have to work and we're going to have to fend for ourselves, and whatever lifestyle we want, we have to make that on our own. So we wanted to keep that up, and we've done what we could, and we've all worked since we were about 16 years old.
Everything seemed to be going great for the college graduate. Not only was she a business owner, but she was also in a very serious relationship. When Kourtney came home from school, she began dating Terrell Jackson, Tito Jackson's son and Michael Jackson's nephew. Kris wrote, quote, "Kourtney and Terrell adored each other and made a really cute couple. They moved in together and they became like a little family. They lived in Terrell's house."
Now, your middle son dated Kourtney Kardashian.
Yes, he dated Kourtney about the same length of time, but it was later, not at the same time when TJ dated Kim. But Terrell dated Kourtney as little as maybe 7-8 years ago.
Okay, so you and the Kardashian family are pretty interrelated in that regard.
Yeah, we know the family well. We've shared a lot of times together in events. If we had an event, of course, they were invited, vice versa.
Though everything seemed to be going well for Kourtney, that would change when she received some very unexpected news. Her father was sick. She wrote, quote, "When he got esophageal cancer, it was one of the worst times in our lives. They found it when it was already stage 4 and had spread to his liver. He didn't have much of a chance of survival. But he didn't tell us all of that. He could barely talk. But he didn't want us to worry. I spent a lot of evenings with him watching old black and white movies. The very last one was The Postman Always Rings Twice." When Robert passed, it really affected Kourtney. She was hit with many emotions that had been suppressed while she was away at college. She was angry, sad, bitter, and resentful. All those feelings that she felt when she discovered her mother's affair resurfaced, and she found it difficult to deal with. Robert died 8 weeks after his diagnosis. When he died, Kris responded by taking her girls shopping, something they say may be unusual to some. Kourtney wrote, quote, "Our mom took us shopping. That may sound weird, but she always wanted us to look our best, and so we went to buy clothes for the funeral. She knew it was good to get us out of the house and to do something together that would distract us for a while. After his funeral, Kourtney would go into a period of mourning. His death allowed her to go within and self-reflect. She wrote, quote, "A lot changed when my dad died. It made me think, you live your life and you buy this and this and that, but then when you die, what happens to all of that? You don't take it with you. It made me realize that life is more than material things. Instead of spending money on a handbag, I'd rather travel and spend money on other things that really add to who you are. Since my dad's gone, I feel his energy, almost like he's making the decisions." Kourtney grieved her father's passing by focusing on her t-shirt line that was pretty successful. Eventually, though, she realized that she wanted more. She wrote, quote, "At some point, I was kind of over the t-shirt line I was doing. My partner and I had been butting heads, and after my dad died, I was reevaluating things, thinking, what do I want to do?" Our grandma MJ had always been a very chic woman, with little matching purses and all, real classy and put together, even if it's in sweats. For 30 years, she owned a children's clothing store in San Diego. So one day, Mom said, "I'm going to open a store." She asked me to be her partner. So I told Mom yes, and we started up a children's clothing store called Smooch right in Calabasas. We would go downtown together and I would do all the buying, selecting, and ordering of the merchandise. And Mom did the cutest windows. The two of us were always at the store, just us. I threw myself into the store. I came early and left 2 hours after closing, every day. It became my baby and my obsession, and I really put my emotion and time into it. Focusing on Smooch helped me deal with my dad's death, and it also helped repair my relationship with my mother in a way. The doors to Smooch opened in January 2004, a little over 4 months after Robert's death.
Look at this color.
I know, it's fuchsia. Isn't that the greatest?
You're practically family when you walk into Kris Jenner and her daughter Kourtney's adorable boutique. While Kourtney is the main buyer for the store, Kris's other sweet daughters, Kylie and Kendall, also have a small say in what's really hot and what's not. That's what I love about Smooch. You guys have everything that I would buy, True Religion, Trunk, all the fun big girl stuff, but you guys get to wear it too.
For kids, right?
After much success with their store, Smooch, Kourtney, Kim, and Khloe decided to open the women's clothing store, Dash, which was right next door to Smooch. Around the same time the girls opened Dash, the family moved back to Calabasas from the Sherwood Country Club. Kris started to really get interested in the idea of starting a reality TV show. She wrote, quote, "I knew the power of success on television from what it did for Bruce and me when we filmed our fitness infomercials in the 90s. So whatever the basis of the show, I felt this would be a piece of cake. I always thought our family was certainly entertaining enough, or maybe just crazy enough, to make a good reality show. So when someone told us we should film a pilot, we found the idea very interesting." But Kris's interest in pursuing a reality show wasn't solely based on others encouraging her to do so. It started when Caitlyn's sons Brody and Brandon, from her previous marriage, began getting a lot of media attention during the summer of 2005. In her unofficial biography, the authors write, quote, "They were the stars and producers of their reality show on Fox, The Princes of Malibu. The cameras followed Brandon and Brody as they lived out their pampered, ambitionless lifestyle. They were college dropout slackers, surfing the high tides of the Pacific Ocean. They lived on a 22-acre Malibu estate belonging to their composer's stepdad, David Foster. It would never have occurred to Kris during all those years she kept her stepsons at a safe distance, rarely including them in the inner circle of her family, that they would end up with the show. They were suddenly everywhere, online, television, radio, newspapers, and even in the sanctuary of Kris's home."
Our next guest, I call him Geppetto. A lot of people call, I call him Geppetto, the puppet master.
This is interesting.
This guy had a vision from a young age on how reality TV could become what it's become. What's your relationship with Kris Jenner? What is that like?
Oh man, Kris and I, honestly, we never talk. You know what I mean? We don't. It's not that we have a bad relationship, and it's not that we have a good relationship. We just don't have a relationship, really.
Why is that though?
I don't. To be honest, I don't know. Just there's been a lot of things. I will say this. There's just been a lot of family drama, even that it doesn't even involve me. It involves my parents.
Yeah.
It involves the divorce way back when that happened. There's just a lot of moving parts in our family, and it's a big family. And Kris and I, we just don't talk. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say that Chris is Chris. Brody's Brody. We'll keep it at that.
You like her though?
I do like her. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, absolutely. I think Chris is a very smart woman, and I think that I think she's an incredible mother to her children, to her children,
To her children.
yes, her children.
But not you guys.
We haven't really gotten to that. We haven't gotten that far. Let's just say that. Just like I said, they grew up in a completely separate household, and Kris is the Kardashians' mother, and I have a wonderful mother. Linda Thompson is who I love, and I'll keep it at that.
After seeing Brody plastered on tabloids and glossy magazines weekly, Kris became very bothered by their sudden rise to fame. They write, quote, "Privately, it was hard for Kris to wrap her head around how Bruce's kids were now celebrities in their own right, getting more attention than Kris and all her kids. Kim was considered the beautiful sister, with the most potential of being a star. But it wasn't Kim who attempted reality TV first. It was Kourtney, the firstborn." Kourtney Semmel had been cast in a new show produced by the E! Network called Filthy Rich Cattle Drive, and she wanted Kourtney Kardashian, her best friend, to be her co-star. The show would include 9 castmates of kids whose parents were celebrities. They would leave behind the luxurious comfort of their lives in LA for the Wild West. When Kourtney told Kris about this opportunity, she was thrilled and thought it would be great exposure for their family.
I was at the forefront of reality TV. So the first show I was on was in 2005 called Filthy Rich Cattle Drive on the E! Network. I didn't even know what reality TV was when they asked me to be on a TV show. So just being a part of the forefront of reality TV was huge. But ours was real. So I thought it was fake, like acting, like they throw you into a trailer and then you go out and you act for a few hours and then that's that. No, they just dropped us off in the middle of literally in the fields, in the forest, gave us a tent. It was all real. We had to find plugs to put our cell phones in to charge them. No hair, no makeup. We showered with the bucket.
After much thought and consideration, Kris told Kourtney to do the show, but she couldn't deny the fact that she thought Kim was a better fit. The authors write, quote, "Kris couldn't help but wonder why Kim wasn't in the running. In no time, Kim was introduced to the casting agents, and the producers put her on the tape. Everyone was all too happy to have Kim's beauty and demurely unscripted whining seduce the buyers. In less than a minute and a half, she had 3 sound bites in the teaser that suitably conveyed the chaos of clueless deprivation viewers could expect. Though the producers loved Kim and offered her a spot on the show alongside Kourtney, she backed out at the last minute due to scheduling conflicts. Kourtney would take the reins and be the first Kardashian to appear on reality TV.
I despise the outdoors. I can't imagine why I'm leaving my nice house to sleep in a tent for 3 weeks and ride on horses. I don't know. I just think you have to look cute when you're riding, no matter what you're doing, even when we're hanging out by the campfire. Gotta have a cute outfit is key.
Kourtney Kardashian wouldn't be the only Kardashian to appear in the spotlight. Eventually, the world would be introduced to Kim, the beautiful one.
Kim has the most beautiful spirit and generous to a fault and just amazing. I mean, she's an amazing young lady that I'm so proud of, her work ethic and the way she is with her friends and her family, and she's caring.
When Kimberly Nicole Kardashian was conceived, it was out of pure passion, which Kris would later say contributed to her great looks. After going on a couple's trip to Aspen with OJ and Nicole, Kris wrote the following, quote, "Robert and I would go back to our room because we were the old married couple. We made very good use of that time in the condominium by ourselves. Kimberly was definitely born out of a night of passion. Robert and I always had our best sex on vacation, and the child who would come next was definitely a product of that." To Kris, Kimberly was a gift from heaven for Kourtney. Growing up under her sister's wing, Kim was attached to Kourtney and would later reveal that they had a very codependent relationship. She wrote, quote, "I would just copy you, and you would torture me and boss me around. You'd say, 'Kim, you have to say you want this for dinner because this is what I want.' And I'd say, 'Okay.' I was your little puppet. Remember when we'd play and you pretend to be Donna Karen? You'd say, 'Do this and this and that.' And finally I would start whining and say, 'I don't want to play anymore. You used to be so evil.'"
A lot of candy. She said, "No." And then she said, and then the mommy said, You can eat them all up right now, and then I'll buy you some more, and that's it.
Very good story.
Though they wore the same outfits, played the same things, and had the same friends, Kourtney and Kim were quite different, and their differences showed when faced with adversity. Unlike Kourtney, who was angry when they found out their parents were getting a divorce, Kim handled the news very differently. Kim wrote, quote, "I had a weird feeling my parents were going to get divorced. My dad called a family meeting and I thought something must be going on because he had only ever called a family meeting once before. Maybe I didn't feel as bothered by the divorce because I was focusing my anxiety on what was happening to my body. Right around the time of my parents splitting up, I was starting to develop physically, and I was upset by it because it seemed so early to me. I remember sitting in the bathtub during that time and crying, putting hot washcloths over my breasts to try to shrink them. I literally prayed to God, please don't let them grow any bigger."
It's really interesting. When I was entering high school, my dad wrote me this like 4 or 5 page letter about body confidence
No,
and
he
about
didn't.
and about taking care of my body and about respecting my body and not letting a man treat me a certain
Wow.
way or take advantage of me. And I like had huge boobs when I was 11. I used to cry all the time, like, please don't grow, please don't grow. It was so, Kourtney didn't. It was so embarrassing. They'd make fun of me. Kourtney was so mean. She'd like tell everyone, Kim wears a bra, like at 11 and like, you know, try to embarrass me with everyone and the boys and stuff. So, you know, my dad was really sensitive to that and just wrote me this letter like, I know you're so uncomfortable now, but, you know, you're going to love your body and, you know, but don't let any guy take advantage of you. And so many guys, even older guys, they're going to want you for your body and not for the right reasons. Like, it was like he broke it down for me.
To help Kim embrace her body, Kris began showing the girls how to wax. Kim wrote, quote, "I remember being in my 20s and meeting some new friends. One time we were changing clothes and I said, have you ever heard of a bikini wax? It's a must, you need it. And they said, what's that? Are you kidding me? Your mom never taught you? I thought that all moms teach you these things. At the age of 11, we learned how to wax our eyebrows at home. And then at 13, we were getting bikini waxes at the salon.
You know, I taught the kids a long time ago that it really starts with when they were younger and how I've like really tried hard to raise strong daughters and give them a sense of self-esteem, you know, really good self-esteem, and how when they grew up and when they went through puberty, you know, they were just like any other kids where it was that real chubby stage. Everybody went through it. They had braces. They were awkward. Rob was chubby. And that's when the kids need you the most. And that's when I think I instilled a lot of stuff about how to feel good about yourself. And we're such a close family that we're always encouraging one another.
Grooming and looking perfect was something Kris Jenner instilled in her girls. It was really important to her to be put together. In their book, the girls write, quote, "Mom showed us how we want to be with our own daughters. For example, she taught us about grooming. She was really into being clean and taking care of your skin. She taught us how to respect our bodies and to always look our best." Looking her best wasn't the only interest of Kim's. Boys were. Though they went to an all-girl Catholic school, it wouldn't stop them from dating. In fact, Kris encouraged it. In her memoir, Kris wrote, quote, "My oldest girls, Kourtney and Kimberly, grew up fast and began to date very seriously very early. Back in 1992, when Kim was around 13, she began dating TJ Jackson, Tito Jackson's son and Michael Jackson's nephew. So when Kim started dating TJ, I was thrilled because he was so great and our families really liked each other. TJ became one of my own and I adored him. Tragically, right after we lost Nicole in the summer of 1994, TJ's mom, Dee Dee Jackson, was also brutally murdered. After the murder, TJ moved in with us briefly. He and I really bonded. For Kim's 14th birthday, Michael Jackson invited all of us up to the Neverland Ranch for her birthday party. Kim and TJ dated for several years. Eventually, though, they broke up. We were devastated when they told us. I felt like I broke up with him. I was in my bathroom when the two of them told me, and I just became inconsolable. I felt so bad for TJ because he had to try to make me feel better about their breakup as I was bawling in my bathroom. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, TJ kept repeating.
So even in your family, if your children split up, you keep their spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, the whole thing as one big, large, blended family.
It's really crazy. When my kids break up with somebody, I feel like I just broke up with somebody. It's not normal.
I mean, it's like, I get very emotionally attached to my kids, spouses or the people they bring home because we all spend so much time together.
TJ, you said Kris Jenner was instrumental to you kind of stepping in as a mom figure. What does she mean to you?
She means a lot to me. I was at a crucial age when I lost my mother. I just turned 16. I was dating Kim at the time. And, besides my family, like I was just saying earlier, when you're a teenager, you think the world revolves around your teenage love. And at the time it was Kim. Oh, you're showing a picture.
Look at the prom picture.
And when my mom passed, Kris and the entire family was so embracive to me. And that's something I'll never forget and never underappreciate.
She talks about her first love at 14 years old to Oprah. And I'm just assuming, TJ, that was probably you.
I'm not gonna guilty. No, don't say guilty.
But you dated her for 2 years, right?
Yeah, we dated for several years, 2.5 years, I believe. I can't say this, but if you really want a story, it's no. You
can't do that.
I can't do it.
Don't lead us to water.
Next time.
Yeah,
I can't do it.
I want to know.
I can't. It's unfair to do.
Well, let me ask you this: what was Kim like in high school?
Kim was sweet. She was really sweet. She was beautiful. She was really sweet.
What? How was it
really
you?
sweet.
What was the connection? How did it fall into place?
How did
it happen?
How did we meet? We met at a
Who liked who first? Let's go to 14.
Who passed the note?
Yeah. Who made the first move?
He's starting to sweat.
No, I'm not. I'll truthfully, I'm not good at approaching women. I'll just say that.
According to Kim, right after the prom, TJ unexpectedly broke up with her, which devastated her and reinforced her body issues. She wrote, quote, "I thought everything had been perfect, and I didn't understand why we were breaking up, and it was really hard on me. From that moment on, I began to feel a loss of self-esteem, and I gained a little bit of weight, maybe from trying to use food to comfort myself, and the extra weight made me feel even worse. After that, I would date anyone who would give me attention. It wasn't just guys. I let people treat me any way they wanted and never stood up for myself. I was a doormat. I was very dependent on people. So I would go from boyfriend to boyfriend and never had the chance to be single. Typically, Kim would rely on Kourtney in her times of need. But when Kim and TJ broke up, Kourtney was away in college. Kim's right hand, her best friend and confidant, wasn't there to comfort her, and she was distraught. She wrote, quote, "When Kourtney went to college, I was devastated, just heartbroken. I cried hysterically. And she didn't go local like Arizona where everyone else went. I was having separation anxiety and so moved in with my dad full time so that he wouldn't be alone. When Kourtney and I were apart for that time, it was probably my first push toward independence." During high school, to distract herself from the pain of her breakup, Kim began working at a clothing store called Body. While there, she would run into music producer Damon Thomas. When she graduated high school, Kim shocked her family when she ran off to Las Vegas and eloped. Kris wrote, quote, "In 1999, at the age of 19, Kim was going through a phase. At first, I wasn't sure what was going on. She was acting a little funny. About that same time, Kim started dating an older man. And one day I said to Kourtney, 'Your sister is acting really suspicious and odd.' Kim would later tell Kris that she was moving out of her father's place and renting her own space, which to Kris was a complete shock. On top of that, Kim's choice on where she would live was also quite surprising. Kris wrote, quote, "I found out she was living in Northridge. That was a really odd choice for her, way north of the city and even north of Hidden Hills. Why would you want to live in Northridge? I asked her. You're not going to school there. There's no reason for you to live there. Oh, I just like it there, Kim answered. But I didn't buy it. It got even odder. Another day, she pulled up to my house out of the blue in a brand new Jaguar. How does she buy herself a brand new car? And a Jaguar, no less, without my help? Kim suddenly had all these new things and she was acting really weird about them, never explaining where she was getting all the stuff. Kourtney started doing some research and fishing around on the internet. We didn't know that her apparent boyfriend was friends with Justin Timberlake. Justin had just celebrated his birthday in Las Vegas, and Kim had gone to the celebration. So Kourtney went onto an internet search engine and typed in Kim Kardashian. And lo and behold, up pops a marriage certificate for Kim and the older man. You married my teenager, I said when I finally spoke to Kim's new husband. You married my teenager. The relationship between Kim and music producer Damon Thomas would last a few years, but by 2003 the two were separated. Put a pin right here, we're going to circle back. Things in Kim's life were chaotic, and it was only going to get worse. Kim found out her father was sick and didn't have much time left. In the book The American Dream, author Jerry Oppenheimer wrote the following, quote, Kim was closest to Robert and the favorite of his 3 daughters. She was just 3 weeks away from turning 23 when her father passed. Her behavior that horrific year underscored her anger and pain that she would soon lose him. Around the time Robert became terminally ill and had little time left, Kim joined her then-boyfriend Ray J in an act that would forever change her life. The year Robert Kardashian fell ill was the year that her infamous sex tape was made. According to Kim, it was supposed to be a private video, but it would later gain Kim international fame and millions of dollars when it suspiciously became public and was downloaded around the world. But put a pin in that, we're going to come back to that again later. In 2004, Kim's divorce from Damon Thomas was finalized, and her relationship with Ray J continued on. She wrote, quote, I got divorced the year after my dad died. When you lose someone you love, it can help you see things clearly in your life. It helped me grow up and realize it was time to move on. And moving on she did. She would begin to set her sights on becoming a reality TV star, something she dreamed of being since she was in high school.
So what did you imagine, what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was about 13 years old, I looked at my best friend and the show The Real World had just come out. And so I said to her, oh my gosh, that's what I want to do. I want to be on a reality show.
Wow.
And you have to be my manager. And she looked at me and said, well, I said, we both have to audition for The Real World. Let's make a tape when we're 18. We'll send it into the producers and we have to do this show called The Real World. She was like, you can do it. I'm not a chance for me. I'll be your manager and you know, we'll make a tape for you. So it's just like such a full circle moment because she's a manager now. She's in the management business and my show is produced by the people that did The Real World.
Around this time, Kim was making a name for herself as a celebrity stylist and was frequently seen photographed with socialite and childhood friend Paris Hilton. Kris wrote, quote, by then my girls were getting some attention, especially Kim, who was now divorced, and began to go out a lot with her longtime friend Paris Hilton. Paris's mother, Kathy, and I had known each other since the 1980s, back when we were both having babies, and Kourtney, Kim, Khloe, and the Hilton daughters, Paris and Nikki, had all grown up together. Kathy and Rick had even given me my baby shower when I had Kendall. Eventually, Paris took off in the public eye and became very, very famous. Paris started asking Kim to go everywhere with her. At this point, Kim and Ray J had broken up, and the media began to notice her. But they really noticed her when my hopeless romantic among my girls was introduced to Nick Lachey, shortly after he split from his first wife, Jessica Simpson. Nick Lachey was the lead singer in the pop group 98 Degrees and had his fair share of exposure. In October 2002, he married pop singer Jessica Simpson in a very lavish wedding, which then turned into an MTV reality TV show called The Newlyweds. The show documented the couple's ups and downs in their career, but also in their marriage. Eventually, after 4 years of marriage, they split. Kris wrote, quote, I heard Nick and Kim were going on a date to the movies, and I thought, well, that'll be fun. I didn't hear much more about it, but the next morning I woke up to find Nick and Kim plastered all over the internet. Every single media outlet was reporting it. TMZ, Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, and more. When the weekly magazines came out that week, it was the same thing. They were the hot new couple in every magazine. Nick Lachey would later say, quote, we went into a movie. No one followed us there. Somehow, mysteriously, when we left, there were 30 photographers waiting outside. There are certain ways to play this game, and some people play it well.
We went and saw Da Vinci Code together.
Really? And did she like it?
She left about halfway through.
The two went out on one, yes, just one date shortly after his split with Jessica.
Went to the restroom, and then shockingly, there were 25 paparazzi when we left the theater. So, you know, and I think there were other things in play on our little rendezvous.
After you left the theater, did you go for like a nightcap?
It was an afternoon movie. No, wow. It was honestly, it was the most.
Do you think she was trying to like get back at someone or something?
You know, this was early on in the Kim Kardashian kind of.
Kourtney made her way to the screen in a reality show. Kim's face was plastered all over tabloids and celebrity news outlets. And then there was Khloe.
Khloe is delicious. She is a really smart young lady who turned out to be the most amazing wife that you can imagine. I mean, you go to Khloe's house and you just don't ever want to leave. She's my little twin soul when it comes to the way she has her house. And that makes me really proud that she wants everything, a certain way. She likes things to be just, perfect.
Khloe's childhood and experiences were much different than Kourtney and Kim's. When she was born, the girls were fascinated by how different she looked. Unlike her sisters, Khloe's skin was fair and she had very curly, frizzy hair. In their book, Kim wrote, quote, "She had blonde, curly hair and green eyes. The rest of us are all dark and hairy like most Armenians. I really loved to torture her. I'd dress her up and insist on picking her up against her will. I would just drag her around like a doll while she screamed and cried. It was partly because I always wanted to be the center of attention. I was always like, take a picture of me." But Kim wasn't the only one fascinated with Khloe. Kourtney was too. She writes, quote, "And remember, Khloe, I apologized to you for this when you were about 16 because I felt so bad about it for so many years. I used to go into your nursery, and I guess I was jealous that you were getting all the attention, and I would say all these mean, horrible things to you. You were just a tiny newborn, and everyone could hear me on the baby monitor." Home wasn't the only place where Khloe felt like she didn't fit in. School was just as bad. She wrote, quote, "I had to go to the same school as my sisters, where they were known as babes. Everyone thought that to date one of the Kardashian girls was the ultimate. Everyone would say, 'Oh my God, you're a Kardashian sister. You look nothing like them.' And it's true. I look nothing like them. It's happened my entire life. But then it was the worst, with these two sisters who were drop-dead gorgeous. Once, a guy I liked said to me, 'Your sister's so hot.' I got a complex for a while after that, and didn't want anyone to be around Kim or Kourtney. My self-esteem definitely suffered."
I mean, obviously you have a good self-esteem and you feel good about yourself, but that has just gotta hurt like crazy when you hear things like that people are criticizing you about either weight or whatever they're saying.
I mean, definitely. I feel like whenever people meet me in person, they always go, "Oh, you've lost so much weight." I'm like, "No, I'm the same. You guys." I'm 5'10", my sisters are 5 feet and 5'1", and to be compared to somebody that you're not constantly is awful. And even in school, my teachers would be like, "Oh, you're a Kardashian sister?" Like, yeah, why? I can't be one? Like, it's always been something like that. I've always been compared to them, or I've never lived up to that. So I don't know why people feel like they could constantly, I'm a size 6. I don't know what's so big about that.
Right.
I don't get it, but I guess when you stand next to these mini-me's, then, they're beautiful and cute, but I could be 5'10" and beautiful and cute too.
And that must be hard too. Because it's one thing for women in our business to be compared to other women in the business, to be put against somebody else's, but to be actually pitted against your own sisters, it's really just another, like a double whammy.
After transferring from the all-girls Catholic high school her sisters went to, Khloe enrolled at the Alexandria Academy for Homeschooling. This decision would not only allow her to study at her own pace and avoid being constantly compared to her sisters, but it also turned her into a full-time babysitter. While Kris and Caitlyn traveled all over for different speaking events, Khloe stayed back and took care of the 3 younger kids, Rob, Kendall, and Kylie. In Kris's unofficial biography, the authors write, quote, "Kris and Bruce were traveling all over the world with his motivational speaking gigs and corporate entertaining for Fortune 500 companies. Kris and Bruce's travel schedule was taking its toll on the younger Khloe. Not only did Khloe step in and act as a caretaker for her younger siblings, but she also stepped in and cleaned up after her older sisters too. She wrote, quote, "My sisters threw parties all the time, and I was the one that had to clean up everything. I was mom's total slave back then. My mom taught me how to drive when I was 13, so if one of our baby sisters had an emergency, I could drive to the hospital. You have no idea." Being left home alone more than half of the year, caring for 3 younger siblings, only inflamed Khloe's anxiety and her unhealthy relationship with food.
I'll get shot for bringing this up, but don't you think you'd lose a few pounds?
What?
Don't you think you should lose a few pounds?
I don't think she should lose anything. She's perfect the way she is.
No, I'm just saying. Do you think so?
I have a rock hard body. I'm just a bigger individual.
No, you are a bigger individual, but you could lose a few pounds. I mean, it's not major. Chloe, don't walk away. That's what you're avoiding it. That's why you're running around wearing black.
I was wearing black because I was depressed.
Mom called and said to me, "You're gaining weight. You gained 30 pounds. You're ruining this endorsement and that endorsement." I was like, one, I didn't gain 30 pounds. And two, I'm not ruining I'm a human being.
Yeah.
And if I gain a couple
If you
pounds
gain
here or
pounds,
there,
you can get a big girl's endorsement anyway. Like something to deal with.
That was
being
not where she
overweight.
was going with that conversation.
As time went on, Khloe began addressing her weight issues and started working out after she was constantly fat shamed by her family. She wrote, quote, "At some point when I was a teenager, I started working out. I went to Taibo with my mom. I rode horses. I lost weight and I got such great attention. Everyone, from my mom's friends to my friends, said, 'You're so beautiful. You're so thin.' I just loved it. I never had that attention before. I had always been the chubby, cute one. I wanted the compliments to keep coming, so I just struggled to get thinner and thinner. At some points, I went to the extreme. Sometimes I would go to the gym 3 times a day, and I had weights in my bedroom, so I'd always be lifting. My parents didn't realize what was happening. They just thought I was losing weight naturally because of puberty. It's amazing how adults can do or say things that absolutely devastate you when you're young. I never thought I had a big nose growing up, but one day when I was about 14, I went to lunch at La Scala restaurant in Beverly Hills with my mom and a friend of hers. We were in the booth and I was eating my salad and the friend said to me, "You don't look Armenian at all." My mom didn't say anything, but I could see her in the mirror. She pointed at her own nose and mouthed the words, "It's her nose." I thought, what? Excuse me? After that, I always thought, God, I have a huge nose. And then I always wanted to get a nose job.
but I've had one nose job, Dr. Raj Kanodia, and everyone gets so upset, like, why don't I talk about it? No one's ever asked me.
While she has had some other cosmetic treatments, she said one thing she hasn't really had is Botox.
I've done, sure, injections, not really Botox. I've responded horribly to Botox.
Host Andy Cohen asked the Good American founder if she feels more secure with her new look, but Khloe says it comes and goes.
When the show first started, I was very secure. And then during the first couple seasons, I became insecure because of the public opinions of myself. Then I had, I think, a good run of being secure. And then I think recently I've become now insecure again.
I remember my dad taking me to school one day and I said something like, "I wish I was as pretty as Kim." And he replied, "Kim might be beautiful, but you have the personality."
Yes, the food mechanism felt so good for the moment, but then afterwards I would feel so bad about myself. But you have to experience it, and I had to go through that. And like I said, be willing and able. Like, okay, so I tried the food coping situation for a couple years, and that didn't make me feel good. In fact, it made me probably a little more depressed and made me feel bad about myself. And then, so it took me years to figure out what made me actually get through a really challenging time in my life in a healthy way.
Khloe did well in school and started to develop a life other than being in the shadows of her older sisters. But at the age of 14, she would meet someone that brought her back to a very toxic place. She wrote, quote, "I was a bad teenager. I used to steal my mom or Bruce's car, and I'd go over to this guy's house. He was a lot older than me, though he lied and said he was younger. Of course, I lied too and said I was 16. I was doing really well in school until I met him. This guy was very manipulative, and I ended up losing my virginity to him when I was only 14. That was the first time I saw how easily older guys can take advantage of pretty young things who don't know any better. I did other things I shouldn't have. When I was in my bad girl phase, I was in this store once with Kim while she was shopping, and she really liked these Dolce & Gabbana pants. So I stole them and tried to give them to her later. It was crazy. I don't know why I did all that stuff. Maybe because I wanted to be different from my sisters or get attention. I don't know. I was just very rebellious at that age, and I started hanging out with a much older crowd. I went to my first club with Paris Hilton when I was 14. She put a red wig on me and told me to say, "You're a Playboy centerfold." And I swear I didn't know what that meant. She had me hold a cigarette that wasn't lit. She said it would make me look older. So people kept saying, "What do you do?" and I'd say, I'm a Playboy centerfold. Khloe would sneak out of the house, go to parties, run errands for mysterious older men that she refused to name in the book, and the list goes on. Contrary to Kourtney and Kim's teenage years, Khloe's was much darker. When she was about 16 or 17, she got into a really bad car accident. She wrote, quote, I decided to never talk to these people again and cut them out of my life completely. At least that's what I told myself I was going to do. But apparently I hadn't yet come to my senses about the whole situation. It was probably only a week after that I got a call from one of the people from the house who'd been friendly with the sicko freak. He wanted me to come over so they could apologize. He sounded really sorry. So I got in my car to drive there. But on the way over, I got into a major car accident and went through the windshield. They had to saw the car apart to get me out. I had to have 2 surgeries on one knee. I had to stay in bed for 3 weeks and I couldn't do anything. My best friend Malika and her twin sister washed my hair for me. I had a brace from my pelvis to my ankle, and I had to be on crutches for 3 months. Khloe's brush with death wouldn't be the only traumatic thing she encountered. Her father's death would take the cake, and Khloe would have the hardest time recovering from it. She wrote, quote, When Kourtney and Kim and I were called to Dad's house to say goodbye, the priest was there. Dad looked so little. Out of all of us, I had the hardest time after our dad died. I wasn't able to talk about it at all, and I disappeared from my family. Whenever they mentioned him, I would cry hysterically and just have to leave. I got crazy with alcohol and became very self-destructive, and aggressive too. I was always in a club, and the night would end with me angry and crying and screaming. I was mean and unhappy. For the longest time, I had absolutely terrible dreams, called night terrors, to the point where I couldn't sleep. I got an ulcer. Oh, and I also lost all my hair. I had to wear a wig. It took 2 years for my hair to grow back, though some of it never did. I blocked out so many things that happened.
Kim, how old were you when Dad died?
22.
You were 22. And how was that last time for you?
It's like when someone's sick, you just do what you gotta do and take care of them. And I think I handled it really well. I spoke at his funeral. I don't think any of them would have been able to. I was pretty together. I worked in his office. I was like the last one working at his office at that point. I was working there too. At the time he died, I think it was just me. I was there too. Oh, I don't remember, but I don't, because I would always leave to bring him lunch, so I really don't remember that. I feel like the last 6 months.
Why are you taking away something?
I don't remember it.
Okay, I'll go.
I'm not taking it away. I just don't remember you working there.
Okay.
You're very good at that, by the way.
If Kim doesn't remember things the way I remember it, Kim will call me a liar, and she does it to me all the time.
Their father's sudden death was a blow to the family. But on top of dealing with the massive amount of grief, the family had something else to deal with. Robert Kardashian's new wife. Before his death, Robert married Ellen Pearson on July 27, 2003 in his living room, right after he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. While on his deathbed, Ellen restricted family and friends from seeing him. She ignored phone calls from loved ones. Author Jerry Oppenheimer writes, quote, Ellen convinced him, in practically his last weeks alive, to marry her. Family friends complained to Kris and the kids that Ellen was keeping them away from Robert. Joni, Robert's best friend since childhood, said, quote, I talked to Kim several times, and she told me that as soon as Robert found out he was going to die, that Ellen kept him apart from any of his friends. In her book, Kris wrote, quote, There were things that held memories for all of us at Robert's house. But knowing that we had such limited access, Kim and I were afraid that we would lose those memories forever. Kris would drive to Robert's house with Kim, where the two concocted a plan to try and quietly remove things from Robert's house that they wanted and knew his wife wouldn't let them have. She wrote, quote, I pulled my Range Rover up to the front yard and left it running. We were like Bonnie and Clyde. Kim would come running out to my car with something, and I would wrap it up in a blanket and stash it in the back. Later, Khloe was able to finally get Robert's childhood monkey, Jocko. All Khloe wanted was that monkey. My kids just wanted the sentimental things that had belonged to their father, and let's just say they became increasingly hard to come by.
That's that's my little object.
That's so sweet.
I brought a stuffed animal toy monkey that was my father since he's been a child. His parents didn't know he was dying.
Right.
He just kept it a secret, so he wanted them to come and see him.
Right.
And then he wanted to say goodbye to them and like say goodbye to all of us. And then after everyone left, he ended up like passing away.
And that was his way of having closure. So please know that.
Aww. This was my dad's stuffed animal since he's been a baby.
Right.
And he always kept it in his closet, just always had it.
Right.
And when he was dying, we had a hospice at our home, and he kept asking for the monkey. The monkey's name was Jocko. And it was in his bed like when he passed away.
Something that Ellen would make hard to come by was Robert's estate. Contrary to what many people may think, the kids didn't receive any money from Robert's estate. It all went to his widow, Ellen. Kourtney wrote, quote, "You know, everyone thinks that we're big trust fund babies, that we inherited a huge fortune from our dad, but it's not true. 6 weeks before his death, he got married, and almost everything of his went to his new wife. The one thing we did get to keep was Rob's college fund, which made us all happy."
How do you feel about Rob in one word?
Smart. Intelligent. He's so he's a mama's boy, I think, and I have great moments.
There's nothing
with
wrong
Rob.
with that.
We just went. He'd hate me for saying that, but we just went on vacation, and I had so much fun with Rob. And he's somebody who, because he is so smart and so strong, and really got his thing together. Sometimes I forget to nurture him the same way that I do the girls, and I think he feels that sometimes. And so right now I'm trying to give him a little bit of extra attention.
Growing up, Rob was very athletic, having been the track and basketball star in school. When his father died, though, Rob would face an immense amount of grief that to this day he still struggles with. After his father's passing, Ellen turned over his college fund that his late father put away for him. The next step was to find a way for Rob to get into USC. Kris took advantage of her marriage at the time to Caitlyn Jenner and made certain connections that helped ensure Rob's acceptance into the school. In her book, Kris wrote, quote, "That had been Robert Kardashian's dream, for his only son to attend his alma mater, USC. From the day Rob was born until the day Robert passed away, he talked about it, dreamed about it, planned it. There was no other college in Robert's eyes."
My father just passed away. His dream was for me to go to USC and get a great education. And thank God I was fortunate enough to get in there and, get good grades to make myself get into that college. And I did. And that was like the biggest accomplishment of my life to begin with.
Do people know that about you?
Who know? Some people who know me, yeah. They definitely, especially obviously my family. My dad was just, super big on education and family and hard work.
And of course, your father was Robert Kardashian Sr.
Yes, sir.
Who was a lawyer who a lot of people remember from the O.J. Simpson trial.
He also was a crazy entrepreneur and had crazy businesses and in a positive way. And it's just, I had 15 years with him, and it was like the best learning experience.
What did you learn about business from him?
From taking $20 every week and just putting it away. Saving money. Look what's going to happen in a year when you take that $20 every week, put it away, hide it in your bank, wherever, put it in the backyard and in the grass. No, but he just taught me so much, and I wish obviously I still had him to this day to see, look what's going on. No, he's up there, but just to get his real advice and help me and everything. He was such a powerful man and such a great entrepreneur. I wish I could learn more at this age and this time of my life from him. But I learned so much, and I'm so fortunate. Some people don't even have a father. So to have 15 years with my father, it was more than enough.
While in college, Rob excelled in his academics, being a straight A student. Kris wrote, quote, "I know that part of his motivation was that he knew he needed to do his best for his dad. He wanted to make his dad proud, because they had talked about USC so many times. And that was the mission. That was the goal. Mission accomplished. I am so proud of my son." Though Rob did tremendously well in school, he struggled internally with his self-esteem and emotional connections because he really missed his father. Even though he felt like Kris was a great mother, he would say that she was a great mother to his sisters and not as great with him.
It's kind of tough, though. She's a woman. She doesn't necessarily know how to raise a boy, a man. That's not her forte. I was with my dad. He raised me. She obviously is doing an amazing job. She gives me great advice. She gives me, everything's super positive with her. And she's always got my back and, there for me. But think about it. She got so many kids and she's nonstop busy. And it's just different when she has all women around her.
Yeah.
It's just a different way. She doesn't necessarily know how. It's not that father-son relationship.
Well, how could she be different in grooming you as a businessman?
It's just not the same with my dad and her. They're two different. They're very smart business people, but it's just different. I respect her a lot. A lot of people do in the business world. She's definitely done a great thing, but it's just different. I have a relationship with my father, and I look at. I learned so much from him in my time that I just view him as my.
I can tell you miss
that's
him.
my that's
You
my
miss him,
that's my
man.
mentor.
Okay.
You know, that's my boy.
This was definitely a tough pill to swallow, but it's something Kris also acknowledged. She agrees with Rob that she doesn't know how to be a mother to a boy.
The whole thing is my anger, a lot of it stems from like the working environment because they all kind of put this cloud on me like I'm a loser.
What do you say when people do that?
I mean, I don't say anything because I don't believe it.
But then you blow up later.
But then you
I blow up later because when there's a business opportunity, all my mom obviously cares about is the 3 girls. And whenever I say, I want to open up a men's
But
store.
mom never helped us with that.
Anyways, she's my mother. And
Okay, hang on for a second. Okay, guys, hang on for a second. First of all, what are you feeling in this moment?
Like they don't understand.
Misunderstood. And how does that feel to you?
It's frustrating.
You look sad. Am I misreading you? I want everybody quiet but Rob right now. Robert, don't leave. Please don't leave, Rob. Please don't leave. Stay and talk about this. Things don't get better when you walk out.
It was hard for Kris to deal with Rob's anger and depression. She had a lot on her plate, and she still had 2 more kids left to raise, Kendall and Kylie.
Kendall?
Amazing. There's just one word, amazing. It's what a gift that child is. She's perfect. I mean, she's like, when she was 2 years old, she would at 7 o'clock go, okay, Mama, I'm putting myself to bed now.
Wow.
I mean, that's
Unheard
Kendall.
of.
Kendall, in a nutshell, that's her whole life. Like the perfect child. Like her room is perfect. She makes her own bed. She studies. She loves school. She causes no problems. She's not really into boys. She's the perfect friend, the perfect daughter, she rides her horse and she's a cheerleader and she's just a really good, like if you wanted to make a list of the perfect child, it would be Kendall Jenner. Kylie. No, Kylie, one word, funny. Kylie is so funny. Kylie is a practical joker.
Mm-hmm.
And she's my little love bug too. She's just like Khloe. Kylie and Khloe are twins. And Kylie, when I even get down for a second, if Kylie feels or senses that I'm in a bad mood or maybe having a moment, Kylie's the first one to perk me back up and get me back on my feet by telling me a joke, playing a practical, stunt, giving me a hug, coming up behind me and rubbing my neck. She's just divine.
When Keeping Up with the Kardashians aired on October 14, 2007, it became an overnight success, thrusting the whole family into the spotlight. Kris would become the manager to all her children, which is no easy task. Kris takes pride in managing their careers and steering them towards having an abundant life. In her book, she wrote, quote, "The show, which was the vehicle for everything that would follow. We never took a break after filming the first season. We just continued filming the second season immediately, and then a third, and a fourth, and so on. I felt like I had a responsibility to not only turn out a really good show season after season, but to use the show as a springboard for something permanent."
You guys call your mom your momager.
Yeah.
What do you say to people? And you've heard it when people say your mother is pimping her children.
I think that's so ridiculous because, first of all,
She's our mom.
we'd have to hire a manager. So regardless, someone is going to get that.
Mhm.
No one will fight harder for you than your own mother.
Mhm.
She knows us. She knows all of our moods. We vibe.
Okay.
It works.
So you have never felt exploited by your mother.
Never.
No, never.
You think you're famous for what?